A clash against WA at Gliderroll Stadium at 4 for 156. The Warriors made 201 in their first innings. Wicketkeeper Matthew Wade is confident he'll be fit to play in Australia's upcoming Test series against India, despite battling a back injury. Wade has been ruled out of today's one-dayer against New Zealand. And boxer Danny Green is promising plenty of fireworks when he faces Anthony Mundine on Friday night at Adelaide Oval. The weigh-in will happen later today. Now the 5AA forecast, partly cloudy, 26 today, mostly sunny tomorrow, 29, Saturday a shower or 2:30 and rain on Sunday, 28. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Peter Godfrey on 1395, Adelaide's 5AA.
Just coming up 4 minutes past 5, just on 16 degrees at the moment. Let's head across the ditch, see what's happening there. Joined by Selwyn Manning, editor of EveningReport.nz. How are you, Selwyn?
Oh, very good, Peter.
That's the
Can't
way.
be better after the cricket win the other day. But,
The what?
Yeah.
The what?
The
what?
Oh, sorry.
What?
I choked on that.
Sorry, the line's fading there, Selwyn. We can't hear you.
Oh, that interference again, Peter.
Yeah.
It's a shocker, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, the weather is very good. It's looking like it's going to be a great day here again in Auckland, but right across the country. So we're heading in Auckland for a high of 26 degrees and a low of 19 degrees. So that's very comfortable. And
Okay.
Very nice and warm, summery feeling for us at the moment. The humidity is starting to get to the country. So we're certainly up in the northern part of the North Island, which is indicative of that summer period for New Zealand. But and it should be a blindingly great day for the cricket between Australia and New Zealand, one-day international at Napier, McLean Park in Napier. Napier is positioned on the Pacific coast there, about just halfway down on the east side of New Zealand on the North Island there, Peter. Beautiful place to visit. And
Okay.
kind of, it looked like New Zealand's version of the Barossa Valley there, with its wine and all of that type of thing,
nice.
the vineyards, etc. So right on the Pacific coast,
Yep.
and you guys will be playing us there. So we can talk a little
We'll
bit
talk more about that
later.
Yeah, shortly. Now, one quick thing before we get into other things. We had a bit of an earth tremor earlier in the night, just after midnight here, but you had one there as well.
Yeah, we did. So it was just slightly earlier than yours. Hang on.
Ours was about 10 past 12 our time, so...
Yeah, your time. So ours was 11:23 p.m.
Okay, yep, so a bit before us.
So kind of in that vicinity anyway. It sounds like the plates might be having a bit of a shake-up there, Peter. Our one was located pretty close to where the big one struck, which was 7.8 magnitude quake in November around Kaikoura, just north of Christchurch. And that struck around the same place last night at, like I was saying, at 23 minutes past 11 in the evening or night there. And this one last night was a magnitude 5.1 earthquake.
5.1, okay.
It's quite shallow, so it was felt quite strongly. It was described as being a rolling movement followed by a big thud, and it must be the plates around there, with the fault lines around there, trying to settle down 3 months after that big one that tore the country in a few ways. Yeah, but 2,100 people across the country reported feeling the jolt, and that's reporting to the official earthquake thing. So yours was a 3.7. 3.7, and it was felt right across South Australia, was it?
No, it was centred, I don't know, near Murray Bridge, so sort of 80 k's from Adelaide. It seems through the Adelaide Hills was where people felt it the most. I guess Murray Bridge would have felt it pretty strongly too, although I haven't heard from anyone in that area. But through the Adelaide Hills, and then in the metropolitan area, seems sort of northern and northeastern suburbs were where it was most widely felt, but not as intense as they felt it up in the hills. Some in the hills said that sort of the shaking for 10 to 15 seconds or so, whereas more down on the plains was 3 to 5 seconds or thereabouts. Yeah, but interesting. You mentioned sort of the description of yours that would you say it's sort of a rolling movement of it, and then the thud. Well, we had a few people sort of describing it that way as well earlier in the morning, without the thud, but sort of a bit of a rolling movement of the tremor.
Yeah, you get those different feelings, don't you, with these? So that rolling thing, and if some in Wellington, I remember seeing one coming up the road. You could hear it kind of coming. It sounded a little bit like a freight train, and along it came. You could see the wave, and then a boof. As it kind of went past. But family were describing the one in Kaikoura in November as being just this huge, and from a Christchurch end of that particular one, just this huge rolling thing like being on the sea that just didn't stop, got stronger and stronger and stronger as it went on, and it went for a few minutes, you know, and so plenty of time for terror to set in for those people that were close to it.
Yeah.
But, gee, I suppose it just proves, like we were saying just off air before we came on, Peter, that it feels like the Earth is alive.
It certainly is, yes. You can look at it that way. It definitely is. Yeah, that's for sure. So, yeah, that was an exciting start to our early morning there. So that you're quite obviously making a lot of your headlines over there. What else is making headlines in New Zealand?
Yeah, in the New Zealand Herald, they're leading, this is online, of course, with an opinion piece by Mike Hoskins as a radio guy. Peter, he's not taken too seriously this side of the ditch, not as much as people would take serious your views seriously.
Thank you very much, Selwyn.
This guy's kind of a bit out there, but a John Keefe fan. You know, anyway, Mike Hoskins, he's on the top of the bill there. Donald Trump has got our attention, so, you know, yawn, we'll move on from that one. Then further down, it's wanted US couple may have fled to New Zealand, and of course there's it's got it there in its lead stories, nerves on edge as strong jolt strikes. It's not mentioning you guys at this stage, Peter, but I guess it was focusing on ours. If you go across to Fairfax's Stuff website, or stuff.co.nz, you've got a lead in with this Australian guy here, the $17 million fight. It's headlined, and a surprise end to bitter lotto feud. Aussie man to pay 20 ex-friends who accused him of cheating them out of $17 million in a lotto win. So that's had a bit of, over the time, it's had a bit of kind of attention over this side of the ditch, Peter, and seems like he bought the ticket on behalf of a group and then didn't share cash in with them when he won. It was a bit of a shocker. But then the other ones on the Fairfax site here is tragic child death, and it's talking about in the school holidays, etc., with self-inflicted injuries. So there's a bit of a concern that there were some patterns going on there with young children down south in New Zealand. Yeah. Also, accused parents, Fairfax is saying that categorically that this accused US couple who are charged with allegedly causing the death of their 7-year-old son have fled to New Zealand, so no doubt there will be quite a lot of attention on that. Radio New Zealand across there, it's talking about water contamination in the Havelock North area. Now, Havelock North's not too far away from where you guys and our team are playing cricket today. It's a little bit south of Napier where that game is going on, and there's been a problem with the water catchments there, probably from a lot of agriculture spill from the farming that goes on in the south end of that region, Peter. But it's also got here Democrats target Trump Supreme Court nominees. A lot of intention on Donald Trump, as I'm sure there is over your side of the ditch too, Peter.
Yes.
And corrections not welcome at Auckland Pride Parade. So the Pride Parade's coming up. That's the LGBT parade that is held yearly here in Auckland, kind of similar to the Sydney Mardi Gras.
Yeah. Yep.
And the corrections, they have been charged by people to get their act together relating to respecting, differences in people's identities. And apparently they haven't been doing enough, and they're not welcome at that parade, apparently. So that's the big story there, Peter.
There we go. All right. Well, the other big story is your date has been set for your election. Your Prime Minister has announced that. September 23rd. Boy, a long lead time. We thought it was bad enough knowing, having an 8-week election campaign. You got, best part of 9 months?
Yeah, so, the Parliament will obviously continue on. The official campaign will kick in from when Parliament closes on August 17.
Okay.
But, yeah, that's right, Peter. You know, he's announced the date. He's saying, OK, people, get your wagons filled with your policy, we are ready to roll. It's all on here, and as you probably picked up in past years, New Zealand election campaigns can be, well, interesting, I suppose, on one side, and bizarre in the other, what comes out of them sometimes. But we'll hit those bizarre notes and the interesting notes, hopefully, Peter, as the year kind of ticks on. We won't, I promise not to be too obsessed about it. But the announcement, it's followed really a day after the Labour and Green parties jointly held their State of the Nation addresses, where they committed to a memorandum of understanding, Peter, that they would partner up to change the national-led government. Both the Labour and the Greens in past elections have campaigned at separate campaigns, have not kind of indicated that they're friendly enough or mates enough to be able to hold hands and scoot across the line into a coalition government. This time round, they're saying, no, we're wedded to the hip, we're melded, joined at the hip, we're wedded here to an outcome. A little bit like the right in your country, Peter, with your Liberals and the Nationals.
National Coalition, yeah.
Yeah, irrespective of what you're going to vote for, you know that if you vote for that Liberals or you vote for the Rurals, it's going to contribute toward a potential leading coalition government type of arrangement, isn't it? Whereas in your case over there, Labour, the ALP, it runs alone. So
yes.
Over here, on the MMP kind of environment, you've got the centre-left parties, smaller, including Labour. It's smaller than it would be over in Australia by proportion. You look over onto the centre-right and the Nationals, they used to kind of fight it out with ACT and these other right-leaning parties, but they pretty much under John Key, they developed a broad tent party which encompassed just about every other party on that side of the spectrum. So it's like one party with a couple of appendages compared to numerous parties on the centre-left. So it's an interesting kind of thing of watching how they're juxtapositioning. And I personally, I think it's a good thing that the Labour and the Greens actually do what your guys over there do. In the Liberals and the Nationals, it kind of makes sense in a way. One of the strong criticisms coming from John Key when he campaigned successfully in the last election was that National would provide strong, stable government, the emphasis being on stable, and he was pointing across to the other side saying, there's a hodgepodge of a whole lot of parties, how can they be stable? So the public, I think, listened to that mantra in this kind of way. It makes it more interesting, perhaps a more unpredictable outcome, Peter.
There we go. What's polling like at the moment? Nationals tend to leading sort of most of your polls at the moment, are they, and have been?
Yes, it has. I mean, the most serious ones have been when John Key was still Prime Minister and before he cleared out. So if you look at, say, the Colmar-Brunton polls, the methodologies, if we stick with that, National was sitting in the mid-40s. Sometimes, if it's having a bad run, public are getting a bit tired of it, it'll drop down to the low 40s, and then you find, it'll do something where the public thinks, it's okay, or the opposition will shoot themselves in the foot, and up its popularity will go into the upper 40s. So if it's in the upper 40s, 47% and above, then you kind of get the feeling that, okay, the popular vote's going that way. The other parties will juxtaposition themselves around the Nationals to get it over the line. That's the centrist parties and the ACT party, of course. But if it drops down below the 45, and then you look at the Labour-Green bloc, and if they're coming up into the same area, well, then it's all on. At the moment, they're down there, and at best around the 41% combined. Labour are traditionally lowest that it's ever had, down below the 30s. So it's got a long way to go to actually become extremely competitive in that area. So the likelihood is that if the Labour Green bloc, the red green bloc, if you want to call it that way, if it can get a momentum going and it gets into the mid to upper 40%, which is a big task at this stage, then, it'll be all on as far as support from a couple of the other parties, but potentially the Māori Party and potentially New Zealand First. New Zealand First, however, is much more centrist and nationalistic, and it's not an easy fit, perhaps, to say, with the Labour, with the Green Party. With Labour, it was in an agreement in 2005 to 2008 with Helen Clark, but it's generally under a leadership of the national leadership going with Bill English, who's much more a centrist type of position politician. There's a lot of common ground between New Zealand First and the Nationals. So, if you're looking at it at this stage in the game, Peter, I'd imagine that, they'll have a strong campaign potentially.
Okay.
But, it's an interesting one. I know there's slight changes here too. Bill English is still feeling his way in as the new Prime Minister, a bit like Malcolm Turnbull, in the early stages, obviously was feeling his way through, like all of them. And this issue with the immigration and Trump, there was a similar kind of pattern here with Bill English as to what was happening in Australia with Malcolm Turnbull. That some people were expecting the Prime Ministers to come out fairly strongly against what was happening over there and perhaps get some clarity for our own people. Now, Bill English and his cabinet, I've got to say, were very slow to engage and to respond on that issue it was almost 24 hours after, getting right into late Monday when by the time they started to make some calls on it. And then it was kind of tempered down into like that area where you guys are, and saying, we don't agree with this, but it's the United States is business really, and we just want some clarification how it affects our people with our own passport holders or dual passport holders. That was pretty much the position that New Zealand took. Now, what it did, because there was a reticence to actually engage on the issue, the opposition jumped into that vacuum, if you like, and really started to tear Bill English apart, saying he's lacking the leadership, hasn't got the moral compass, he doesn't know really which way to point. This is illustrating that New Zealand has a guy at the moment who's Prime Minister that doesn't have the credentials to lead. So there was a lot of politicking going around over that by the time the next day's sunset arrived, Bill English had said, that's all vibe and nonsense. We're going to go to the polls. We'll do it in September 23rd. So there you go, Peter. It's all on.
There we go. It is all on. Has Bill English spoken with Donald Trump as yet, directly?
He's a bit coy about that.
Is he? Okay.
It's a good question, Peter. He's been hammered about that. So when's this phone call going to be coming? And, he kind of puts his head down. He mumbles a little bit saying, well, we're not too certain about as to if and when. So, he's quite uncomfortable.
All right.
It's like the little old New Zealand's been jilted out of the road while the big players kind of get in front of them.
Still, I couldn't blame him for that. I think Trump would be a formidable person to even just have a conversation with. I don't think I'd welcome it.
Yeah. I mean, John Key, a lot of people said he's the kind of guy that you'd want around your barbecue, for a beer or something like that, which is probably okay, he's entertaining. With Bill English, he's the kind of guy that, you'd sit there to be a kind of a palsy, but would you really want Donald Trump at your barbecue? No, totally different, aren't they?
Totally different, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so we'll just have a quick break and we'll talk some more. We'll talk cricket. If we have to.
Well.
Be back with you in a moment. Selwyn Manning's with us from New Zealand, editor of EveningReport.nz.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
On Two Tribes, Minister Pine defended his government's record on jobs.
Nobody could accuse me of not being Australia first, Australian manufacturing first, especially in high-tech, advanced manufacturing.
Weekday mornings from 6.
Decisions that we've made to build 12 submarines, 9 frigates, 12 offshore patrol vessels, decisions that Labor didn't make in their 6 years in government.
5AA Breakfast on 1395. Adelaide's 5AA.
It's incredible. Over 80% of the tickets are already gone in the Hospital Research Home Lottery. Don't miss out on your chance to live mortgage-free in absolute luxury. The stunning Scott Salisbury home at Somerton Park could be yours. With over 7,000 prizes, you've got a 1 in 12 chance to win. Order your tickets now and support finding cures and improving care in our hospitals. Visit homelottery.com.au. Licence M13223.
If the food is amazing, if the beer is icy cold, if there's something extra special about the service, you're standing in a Barreau Hotel. The Barreau Hotel Group have unbeatable lunchtime meal specials from just $10.90, all with salad or vegetables. That's right, a great range of lunch specials Monday to Friday from just $10.90. Why not enjoy a meal and a drink at a Barreau Hotel? For real value, the Albion Hotel, the Birkenhead Tavern, the Sundowner at Whyalla and the Lighthouse Wharf at the Port. All part of the Barreau Hotel Group.
See history in the making and be there when Port Adelaide play in Shanghai May 14 this year. Phil Hoffman Travel has a choice of packages starting from just $849 per person, twin share. The futuristic city of Shanghai. Enjoy the game, 4 nights accommodation, breakfast daily, city sites tour and airport transfers. With 3 incredible sporting packages to choose from, hurry because they'll go quick. See Phil Hoffman Travel today, pht.com.au.
If you download a radio app, you could listen anywhere. Even at your cousin's wedding. I mean, you can catch the game right there. At work, no one would notice that you're listening to that show until it makes you LOL and sing the hits you know. If you download a radio app, you could listen while in bed. You'd never hear another snore and drift off to jazz instead. So download it at the App Store or at Google Play, and 250 Aussie stations will be just one swipe away. Radio app, your radio wherever you are.
Right now in Dave Potter Honda's exclusive Great Start to the New Year's sale, get the lowest price ever on new Honda Jazz and HRV at just $15,990 and $26,990 drive away. It's amazing. Plus, get a free 5-year warranty, free roadside assist and a free protection pack. What a great way to start the new year. Dave Potter Honda's exclusive Great Start to the New Year's sale. DavePotterHonda.com.au. South Australia's #1 and Australia's most awarded Honda dealer.
Dave Potter Honda.
It's just gone 12:23 at R&J Advertising.
I am talking into a fan. This is awesome. Oh, Jerry. Yes, Ron?
What's with all the Spitwater fans everywhere, mate?
Oh, it's for the new Spitwater Industrial Fan Campaign. The range is huge, and they have a fan for any situation.
Give me a go. So what's the headline?
Spitwater, our range of fans will blow you away.
That's genius.
Spitwater, that's what it does. Spitwater.com.au. 13.95, Adelaide's 5AA. This is Peter Godfrey.
And we're taking a look at what's happening across the ditch in New Zealand. Selwyn Manning with us, editor of EveningReport.nz. Well, the cricket's on over in New Zealand, so the one-day international, you guys and us, on the back of the Kiwis beating Australia in the first match.
I was going to say, Peter, ouch. Over that side of the ditch. Beating you guys in the cricket, that's like, I think I sent you a note. It's like the Wallabies beating the All Blacks in rugby.
Yeah.
That'd hurt.
Yes,
Doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Peter, what went wrong?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask on that. I think simply you guys obviously hit more runs than we did.
Only just, I've got to say.
It was a 6 runs or something.
Biter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's some interesting stuff that what's it say on this is got to say this is totally biased, of course.
Yep.
Obviously I'm a Kiwi, so there'd be an element of bias there. But on blackcaps.co.nz, so it's our international team's actual website. But it's quite amusing here. They said once again the Garden of Eden hosted a classic Chappell-Hadleigh match. So they're naming it the Garden of Eden now. That's Eden Park in Auckland, of course. There's rugby and cricket. Location of note for years now. But I was thinking, don't get too carried away because there's today, isn't there, Peter?
There is.
We might be one up.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Well, one up, but it's still there's today to play, and that's in Napier, in McLean Park. Like I was saying earlier on, Peter, should be a blindingly good day, hopefully, and maybe it's going to be another clincher. Who can tell?
Who can tell? Well,
certainly, you guys, sports people, will certainly have the inside word on what's going down with your team. But
they will
over
indeed.
Here in over here in New Zealand, we're not kind of that interested in what's going on wrong with your team. We're kind of thinking, we got to win.
What can we do to repeat it? Yeah.
The green and gold only just pipped at the post, but still by 6 runs. New Zealand ahead by 6 runs. Anyway, that's the bragging. Next week you'll probably say, Selwyn, we got you in the end, or something like that.
Yes, we can. We might turn the tables. We will wait and see. Interesting too. I don't know whether you were talking about yesterday was the anniversary of that infamous underarm bowling incident back in 1981. Yeah, February 1st, 1981.
Well, that was a certain Mr. Chappell as well.
That's right. Yes, indeed. Yes. Yeah. I think that was here, though, wasn't it? Melbourne, I think that happened. Yes.
It's amazing it hasn't hit the headlines. It shows you we're deliriously happy with the win.
Obviously your win pushed that off the off the news radar.
Because it pops up all the time. It's like the Kiwis never forget this one, And even those who weren't born at the time, I think, know it. They're probably taught about it in the essential curriculum during this primary school years.
Well, I've never been a cricket follower to any degree, but I distinctly remember that happening, and probably joined in conversations at the time about the rights and wrongs of it and all the rest of it. So it certainly was a landmark event.
Landmark event. I mean, in some ways too, it led on to a culture of really being able to. Get excited about the trans-Tasman rivalries in these sports, and those kind of things. They gave the Kiwis a sense of focus. We were robbed. Now, whether or not we were going to get the actual... we needed a 6, I think, didn't we, off the last ball?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
I think, it might be, I'm pretty sure it was a 6. It wasn't requiring a 4.
Yeah.
So, and so you guys kind of just bowled it along the ground, so it was impossible to get that. So, with New Zealand, it's like, oh, we're robbed there, and it's endured all of these years. Whether or not the person was going to get it or not, well, the chance was taken away. But anyway, but what it did is it entered into a whole new generation of following that, and you had people over this side, you had coming in with... Richard Hadleigh, who is now Sir Richard Hadleigh, and he was fantastic, obviously. And you guys had Lily coming in after that period, and your bowling attacks. Of course, we had on the batting side a little bit later, but Martin Crowe, he's passed away sadly last year. But it was a fantastic time, and so much. There was so much reward, I think, between that rivalry at that time. So, I guess with a win up our belt, Peter. Win on their belt, notch on their belt against you guys.
Notch on the belt.
Are pretty flash, The worst of you guys is like taking on a formidable tiger. So this is a good win.
Yeah.
Let's see whether or not we are on a roll. I know it's on home turf. We've come out of a successful series against Pakistan and Bangladesh, and maybe let's just keep the hope alive on this side, Peter.
Keep that positive outlook, and we'll keep that same positive outlook that it was just a bad day at the office, and
bad day at the
you guys will get a flogging this afternoon.
Yeah, a little bit jet lagged with the 2 or 3 hour flight across the ditch, maybe.
Maybe that was a bit much of the alcohol service on board. Who knows? They're cricket players
Look,
after
it's always going to be great.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. We'll talk about it next week too. So, and have a great week, mate. Thank you.
You too.
And we'll talk to you then. All the best. Selwyn Manning in New Zealand, editor of EveningReport.nz. Head there to find out all the latest happening across the ditch. And Stone's along shortly with all the latest happenings for us with 5AA News. David and Will along soon with 5AA Breakfast. They'll be here just after 6 o'clock. And your call's coming up too. 8223 0000, the number to call. Join the conversation here at 5AA.
This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Partly cloudy and 26 today. It's 5:30. I'm Ann Stone. A man has died of stab wounds and another man has been arrested in the Riverland overnight. Police discovered a man lying on the ground with stab wounds around 9 p.m. following reports of 2 men fighting on a street in Barmera. The man died at the scene while the alleged offender, who was known to the victim, was arrested at a nearby home. And a man has been found dead at Hayborough on the Fleurieu Peninsula. Police and emergency services were called to a home on Mentone Road just before 9 last night and found a body inside. Police are treating the death as suspicious. Major crime and detectives from Victor Harbour CIB are investigating. Adelaide has again been rocked by an earthquake. A 3.7 magnitude tremor was recorded at Murray Bridge just after midnight, and it was felt right across the metro area and the hills. 5AA was inundated with callers, including this man.
I thought it was a very strong gust of wind until it sort of continued, and I thought, well, the house has never done that before with all the gully breezes. Must be a tremor. And
there are no reports of any serious damage. Adelaide drivers are spending more time behind the wheel, but they're not going anywhere. A new survey by the RAA reveals up to 43% of our journey can be spent at a total standstill. It's also found afternoon peak hour is starting earlier on metro roads. Congestion is now being reported as early as 3:45 p.m.